So we were talking about the Sri Yantra and the phases, and we were talking about generalizing ways in our lives to simplify to get to goals. Otherwise, we get carried away with a lot of nuances and lose our way in different phases and planes and all this stuff. I mean, that's probably a really good topic to discuss today. How do you get through to liberating your consciousness? People are really into the New Agers are into consciousness and all that. It's like your eyes are open, you're conscious about things, but how do you get to goals in life if you can't see a clear way of getting there? So that's it. It's like how do we find a way to get to a goal without getting lost in the means? They always say the end is in the means, but I don't think the end is in the means. I think it's a means to an end. We got to give a methodology. So when we're talking about yantra, we're trying to create a methodology that we work painstakingly and a lot of exhaustive rigor to do that. Because as I've been saying on our podcast, that we have three ruinations in our life. We have the language is taken away from us, our travel is taken away from us, and our life is pretty much taken away from us or limited, let's put it that way. So we talk a lot about the native language being speaking in tongues, and I'll give the example because we know that Grantham Taylor used. He does speak in tongues, and here he goes. And say, well, that's just a bunch of gibberish. And you see now Steve's moving his lips, but there's no sound coming out. See, you got to make sound. So that's called the sacred language, a sacred language. So the second ruination is they take away your life because, it's limited to 100 years, but in the Far East, and there's getting some more awareness on that in the marketplace. I've been talking to people lately. In India, they live much longer than 100 years and look good. So we call that portality, proper mortality, to live longer than 100 years and take away that ruination of mortality in a short time. And then we're working on the eye travel. That's when or this yantra work we're talking about is we're trying to create POTIKA. We're trying to get to POTIKA, which is portals of travel in knowingness arena. Interestingly enough, I met two gentlemen that actually were able to travel with their eyesight. They closed their eyes, opened their eyes, and they're about 100 yards in front of themselves. So that spurred me on to the fact that when my son was born, he said to me, "Daddy, I see two worlds." And I didn't know what he was talking about. I said, "Okay, that's good, son. You have a nice day now." We patronize our children. Anyway, even though they have wealth of wisdom and they have the proper language and they're born, no, speak this auxiliary country logic. We'll give you some logic patterns and you need to stand under your native language. Right, so we're resolving the three ruinations. But the one we're working on, we'll talk about today, we're working on the phases of the yantra. Oh, Steve disappeared. He was goofing around with buttons over there. I knew there was going to be a real problem. I can see him. Did you see him pushing buttons and all that?
You know what he's done, Grantham?
Yes,
I was
sir.
going to ask you, these two chaps, would you call it teleportation? But Steve, give us an example of it. It just disappeared.
Right. He teleported. Exactly. Thank you. That was an example of him disappearing and went to some other phase because Steve's always talking about phasing and whatnot. So hopefully, there he comes. Come out of the void. There he is. Sorry, you're good to go now. Can you see everything now?
I can see everything.
Oh, thank goodness for that.
Make me one with everything.
You can see everything. It's a total awareness. Steve Hall with total awareness. Tell us all about it.
Well, you talked earlier about people having goals and how do we get to the fifth plane, the sun. But the reality is that until you sort the foundation out, as we say, that means that you sort yourself out as being realised. You're not going to ever get there. So it's all down to foundation again. But we're living in a world now where people want things and they want it now. They don't want it tomorrow. I mean, in the years gone by, you build a house, for instance, and the house would take weeks to build. Now they build a house in days. But the quality of the house is rubbish because the foundations are rubbish. But that's the way society is now.
Well, instant gratification is what you're talking about. They want things instantly because we're talking about a nanosecond world. The computers are fast and everybody doesn't have time to take a breath, mainly. Everybody's hyperventilating. I had to invent the word hypoventilation, but they didn't have the opposite ventilation. There's no term hypoventilation. It's my neologism. So when you hypoventilate, you're getting a lot of air. So you got to appreciate how ridiculous it is. You lose air in hyperventilation, and people seize up and everything else because they don't get enough air. That has a problem with maybe the breatharian thing, because people are afraid of breatharianism. They want their food and they want their hydration. But when you breathe the air and you're using the body brine, using the jade, I think they're frightened of not eating food. See, so the breatharians in the Far East they call them the God eaters, Eshwa Kanwali. They eat the air. See, air sandwich. I said, take a bite out of there.
Like a
fish.
Really
good.
Like a fish.
That's right, like a fish. Yeah, exactly. But they're taking in water, see, because they're in the water. And we're fish out of the water. We're amphibians out of the water. So that's why we're always talking about
I'll ask you a
important
question.
hydration is.
I'll ask you first, Grantham, then Tony and Vicky. If you were a fish, what would you be?
What type? What type of fish would I would be? Because I am a whale. So
Right.
I guess
What about you, Tony?
I was going to say trout, but having watched people throw bricks into shallow ponds with trout, I don't think that'd be a good idea. So it'd have to be some deep water fish, maybe a perch. I like that flowing.
That has to be a dolphin.
Dolphin.
For me.
Yeah, that's a nice one.
Yeah,
That
I
I
like the
would have
dolphin
probably
thing,
gone
yeah.
dolphin, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go orca,
I'm changing.
killer whale.
You're gonna do.
Yeah,
You're a
because
killer
that's the
whale,
only
right?
thing on this planet that's not got a predator.
Oh, yeah, that's true because they're so huge and nobody's going to mess with them, right? Anyway, we were talking about yantra work, the phases of the yantra work, and how that will help us get to our travel. See, the problem is, and this is a nuanced thing, we get up and walk around. Yeah, but that's a vehicle. It's not, you're not really moving with your eyesight. So we got to be talking about the specifics here because people are used to moving around with their physical body. I say, yes, but you're still in that portal. So you're still moving around in the one singular portal that has been superimposed upon our viewpoint. Our eyes have two portals superimposed on themselves. You see, so all that traveling is not eyesight travel. So what we're trying to teach by getting to POTIKA, that when you diverge your sight and you see a twin portal, that you can look to the right or left and with your eyes and look into that picture, and then it'll converge and then you've moved into it. See, so we're trying to bring back eyesight travel because it's an option that we should have, and we're locked into one portal. Truth be known, people don't like that idea. They'd like to have some freedom, but they really don't have any freedom in the Earth world. They're locked into it. See, so Steve, you had a question there? I saw you're just shaking your head. Oh, you're taking a breath. All right. So, are there any questions so far? Yeah, please, Vicky.
Would you think that it links with time travel somehow? There's a possibility of time travel.
It is time travel. Sure, it's time travel. But true time travel, the stuff that they monkey around with in science, they have no idea what they're doing. They're time traveling, but they don't know how they did it. See, they claim there's no methodology. We're given a methodology for controlled time travel to a certain degree. We haven't gotten there yet. We're working really diligently hard to do that. The two gentlemen that actually had the experience didn't know what it was, and they asked me about it. And I hadn't had the experience, but I had some theories about the whole thing, and I was well known for articulating things. So they came to me and asked me what I thought about it. And when I explained it to them, they were so frightened they didn't want to talk about it ever again. So all this travel business, I'm trying to give back that skill, because people deserve it and they want it. It's just a utility that we've lost and a power that we've lost. There's no reason why we shouldn't have it because we're aware of it. But it's going to take some rigor to do that, see? So we want to bring back the ability to get into different portals. If you go, like you were saying, in time travel going into the past, you have in the portal that you're in now, you're just going to the portal previously behind you. Like, here's a good example. If everybody takes a two mirrors, and you put a mirror in front of a mirror, and you look to the left of the smaller mirror, you can see an array of portals open in front. They curve around to the front of you, and there's 36 on the left side, 36 windows. And if you look on the right side, there's 36 windows in front of you. Now, that also means there's 36 behind you on the left side and 36 behind you on the right side. There's 144 portals on a parallel horizontal. So when you go back, Vicky, you can go into the past and time travel. But even if you go forward, it's time travel too. But you have to realize it's a distance. Well, but if you go back, you could go back, say 100 yards or something in the present time, but you could go back in years by getting into portals. You said, Tony, a couple of weeks ago that when you go into a portal, you're wondering, well, where are we? And then it's a knowingness arena. You'll know where you are. So and you look around, you might see dates on things written down or something. You can actually validate where you are too. At the same time, you're knowing where you are. And I really appreciate that, Tony, because that was a really key variable in all this, okay, in reference to this traveling.
How would you explain to somebody who didn't know what the knowingness arena is?
Okay, so like in your own self, everybody knows things on the inside, but they can't corroborate it. Like the problem is you go to your family and friends and you try to explain what you're talking about, they're not wanting to listen to you. But see, we have the quadrumpent here. See, the quadrumpent, the big four right here. So you can come to us and we'll nurture that experience, see, so that you can corroborate the knowingness within you. See, says, Tony, everybody has knowingness, but they need corroboration for it. See, with people who are unsupportive, then you got to find people that are agreeable and supportive. And if you know more than they do, or can articulate more of the knowingness, then you're going to touch on their knowingness and its expansion. You see what I mean? So that exploration is within our own self. Each individual is a knowingness. And the things we're talking about now, people are going, nodding their head, yes, that's right, because they're thinking about it all the time because we make proper conclusions. So that's a good question, though. I really appreciate that, Tony, but every single individual has total awareness, but we got to touch on it. We've got to allow for it. We got to get rid of the monetary system and be masters of time. We've got to sit and allow people to talk till they pass out instead of gassing out. People gas out all the time because they run out of terminology. But if, as explorers like we are, we can touch on things. Say, well, what about this? You said this. Can you elaborate on that?
I'm just thinking about that. I don't think many people have confidence in that knowingness that comes to them. The first thing that comes to them, that is the knowingness, I take it. But people don't have confidence. They're going to ask for opinions. You're going to start to think about it, and then they've lost that knowingness.
That's right. This is a good discussion about the knowingness arena. And people are excited right now listening to us because they're thinking about a lot of things that we can corroborate with them. See, and that's all we need. We need support with our family and friends. But see, people don't have any time. Remember, Steve, yesterday we were talking about if you had time, you can get people to tremendous realizations within their own self. But they have to be their own explorer. But we have to guide them to explore, to make their own connection. But see, if you don't have any time, because they're on the clock, they're trying to make profit. I have a job to do. Leave me alone. Stop talking to me, Grantham. Come on, I need to go. Stop talking to me.
I need to go and watch the TV. The Simpsons.
That's right. You're not entertaining me enough. You're not singing and dancing. I'm going to town, singing around. Oh, give me that old soft shoe and nothing else will do. Oh, sorry.
Now, I want to take you back to what we said just a short while ago about going into the past or going into the future. Now, if you go into the past, we basically know what's there because it's past. If we go into the future, supposedly it's unknown because it hasn't been written yet. However, if we are reliving what we've already lived, then surely it has been written. Do you get that?
But it's still relative, though, Steve. Like your world is relative. So even when you go in the past, we're looking at things a little bit differently because the individuality. Don't forget the individuality. So it's not a set time and space because that's why there's so many variables. That's why we're trying to get down to general concept or methodology directed towards a goal. You see, man, but if you're trying to get to a goal, then you can't dwell on the fluff. When you're talking about a bunch of extraneous things that aren't targeted to a focus, you're unfocused, okay? And a lot of people are unfocused and are having a lot of problems. You see what I mean? Like they're emotional or whatnot. They don't understand things and yada yada. They don't have enough money. All these things that are in their lives that make it difficult. Or like Thoreau said, people live quiet lives of desperation. You see, and they do because they're not getting corroboration and getting people to move ahead and working together. I mean, it's a helter-skelter world. And we don't want to make it that way, but it's run by profit. See, the biggest problem is it's run by profit and major monies and billions and billions of dollars that are going into nonsense research and things. It's a big waste. I mean, we've talked about the exoteric arena is pretty much a vast wasteland of everything. But to get in there and fix things, that's our responsibility, the quarumpant. The quarumpant is here to fix things. We are the podcast. We are the fixers. Oh, you guys are the fixers? We can come to you and get anything fixed. Yes, you can come to us and we will fix everything. We have the power to do anything. And see, that's why this is really beautiful. If we can really get time travel locked in, people can go back and change everything. Why not? They have these films. Well, you're going to mess up the time continuum. Oh, the time continuum's been messed up for a long time, So you can create what you want. See, that makes people nervous, too, because when they realize they're the creator, they go, I thought God was the creator. Well, yeah, but we're kind of like mini gods when you get right down to it. I hate to say it, but we are the creators. I don't think that the real supreme deity could give a rat's about things. It doesn't really care. It's just ignoring us completely, and we can do what we want. That's where the freedom comes in. You see what I mean? I'm a theist, but I believe it's a giant no thing, the big superpower that is like we're like these tiny little mites in the universe, and the superpower is kind of just, well, do what you want. So I think we have a lot of freedom to do whatever you want to do, and why not? It's your creation. So that's the beauty of all this. And like if you can fix things, why not? See, so that's why I'm going into this rigor to try to get to POTIKA, the portals of travel and knowingness arena inside MDM. MDM. Don't forget Macy dust membrane. Right before you get to the sun.
What is that, Grantham, for other people? What is Macy dust membrane?
Oh, the MDM, the Macy dust membrane. Well, okay, my sister years ago was telling me about how she has this parrot. The parrot's about 30 years old, and every day it collects this dust in the bottom of her cage. And does Macy flutter its wings or whatnot to create dust? She says, no, it just sits there. And I went, God, that just blew my mind. I suddenly realized we all create dust. We're the dust creators, and every single atom, every single manifestation is creating dust, right? In the air, correct? Okay, so that means this membrane that's around us is created from the dust, and that the chiaroscuro, the light and darkness, is spinning because we know that relative space, and Einstein proved curvature of space. So everything's spinning, see? So that's why I coined the word flash. We have fast lights, and it's spinning all the time, but it spins and churns up this dust. So because the images create dust, right? So the dust creates this membrane around us that I call MDM, the Macy dust membrane. Yeah, so go ahead, Tony.
Would you say it's the friction of our individual cells spinning on this plane we're on?
It's like your body right now is emanating dust. See, because it's manifest. Everything around you in that room is emanating dust. And the proof of it is if you see a light beam come in the room, you can see the dust particles in the air, which as a child, I was very intrigued by that. I might have been 4 or 5 years old, maybe even 3 years old, and I'm looking at this light beam, and there's all these dust particles in the light beam. I'm like, wow, that is really interesting. And I'd say to my mom, what is this dust? Well, it'll settle, and then we got to have it cleaned off.
I think we all saw that when we were kids, didn't we? The dust, and wondered.
Nobody discusses it. That's why the MDM is really cool. Yeah, go ahead, Steve-O.
Yeah, the thing is, it's there, and it's there all the time, not just because there's a beam of light coming in, showing it up. It's there all the time. It's a bit like sound current.
I mean, the disease of tinnitus?
It's there all the time.
I think people have tinnitus, and they can't get rid of the tinnitus. So, but it is a disease, and if you hear that, see, we'll take good care of you. We'll take you to the home now. Take them away. I have tinnitus. Yeah, go ahead, Tony.
I was saying, where does that tinnitus sound come from?
Well, it's just your body. Your body churns up making the sound. Because remember, all the cells are spinning very fast, so it's the friction of the cells on the Macy dust membrane, on the membrane. I got away with that, right, Vicky? Thank you very much.
It's creating a vibration.
Well, yeah, it's all vibrating. Are you going to live in portality and have an empire and do some real worthy causes instead of the nonsense that they do right now? See, that's why we're doing TOY, the Omnivergence Institute, because that has some really advanced technology. They're not really doing advanced technology. They're spinning around in circles and things to take profit. Like the computer industry is a good example. Years ago, they realized they could sell speed and storage. Your speed is megahertz or hertz, and then your storage is bytes. Bytes can be stored in memory or storage facilities, so they can sell speed and storage for forever. You see, it's Fibonacci sequence. I mean, it's unlimited, Tony. So they just keep selling more storage and faster speed. So that's the game of the continuity of the computer industry. But it's the same thing that there's a continuity. They keep getting funding and making all these really crazy stuff like electric cars are a complete and utter waste because the technology is so poor. That's why I got to get the relastatics going in TOY. The relastatics is really the great paradigmic shift. It would be like the fuelless flux capacitor, Back to the Future, right?
What is relastatics?
Yeah, the relastatics is like where you're looking right now, the air around you, you turn that into kinetic power. It's called statics to kinetics. Static air to kinetic power. And I'm the only one that knows how to do that. So, but I got to create the institute. Right? That's why, folks, by the way, subscribe to our podcast because we're needing lots of money for my institute, the Omnivergence Institute. So please subscribe. But I won't beg you. I will not do that because Steve knows I never beg, and Vicky and Tony know I never beg anything. But please, oh, please subscribe.
They don't have to subscribe as in money. They're just subscribing as in following.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But if you want to send a check too when you subscribe, that's okay with me. I don't have a problem with that. But make it big with lots of zeros on it.
I'm not going to ask you mechanics of relastatics because that's a secret and it's worth a lot of money.
Yes, Steve, go ahead. Yes, sir.
Yes, it is a secret.
What's a secret?
Yeah.
Well, it's not really a secret. Everybody should know it. I mean, like I said, they had a movie that had the flux capacitor, but they put fuel in it. See, this is fuelless flux capacitor. So there's the answer right there. That's revealing the secret. If you can make it, that's great. I don't really want to have to do all that. I wish somebody would do it without me having to do it, but they're not doing it. They have no idea what I'm talking about. It's just child's play. Yeah, go ahead, Vicky.
Is it important for us to be involved in electrostatics? Why is it important?
You're not using any fuel, and you have you can travel unlimitedly in a vehicle. See, we're trying to teach the eyesight travel, but our vehicles are limited to a fuel tank. See, with a relostatic vehicle, there's no fuel tank. You can go anywhere in the physical universe. See what I mean?
Sure.
And you can actually make it to a portal with you too. You could take your flux capacitor vehicle. You could take it with you in one of the portals. You can put it in there. You can see it in a portal and go in there, if you wanted to. Futuristic stuff will have all of what I'm talking about. So I wish I didn't have to do it because I'm very lazy. I like to sleep a lot because I'm elderly. I'm very old.
So is it possible for us to get into the future and get hold of those locomotions that are geared by electrostatics?
Oh, is it possible?
And bring them back?
They give you the design. Yeah, but you need about you got $3 trillion handy? You can write me a check. Go right ahead. So the prototype's going to probably cost at least that. One of my former podcast hosts was saying, well, can't you do it smaller on a smaller basis? That is a small one. Because prototype takes a lot of money, get all the variables, accoutrements, and everything to do all that, to ramp up. to do that. So
Yeah.
it's very
But if we brought it back with us from the future, we wouldn't have to. We wouldn't have to replicate it because we have brought it back.
Yeah, we have to get the institute going, because that's the main thrust is to create the spaceship that travels in light speed. See, they don't study light speed because they think it dilates time. It's a big mess. Time dilation is the reason. That's why they have Close Encounters and Flight of the Navigator. There's a lot of films that depict the fact that when you come back, the time is different. But it's not. I proved that in front of MIT professors. Ironically, I was doing a constitutional law class years ago, and I had these MIT professors in the audience. So we started talking about relative light speed travel. And they all agreed that if you go light speed and come back, it's like maybe a fraction of a second difference in the time. You see what I mean? So that's a bunch of baloney. You just go 300,000 kilometers in warp 1 per second, and then when you come back, it's the same timeline. I mean, any child could figure that out. So, but they don't do that. NASA can't even get any government funding anymore because they go nowhere. All they do is waste people's money. They didn't go to the moon because they didn't have the technology to do it. They're not smart enough to do that. They have no idea where it is because they have the wrong cosmos. You know that when we get into the app, right? The azimuthal equidistant projection that Admiral Byrd proved by going over the poles and realizing that we're in a spiral that goes up to the sun. They're not studying any of that. We're the only ones to talk about it. The triumphant. And Steve went, lullaby and good night, go to sleep, little Stevie.
So, grandson, what would this vehicle look like? Would it have wheels?
Oh, no. It's going to be up off the ground. It's probably the same distance our cars are now, like the scooter in Star Wars. You know, what was Scott Hamill's name in Star Wars? You know,
Luke Skywalker.
Luke Skywalker. Yeah, Luke Skywalker. His scooter, and that would be the example of it. It's a good example of that. It's off the ground. It's not touching the surface. It's levitating off the ground. Real simple. Reverse electronics, they have levitating trains right now. Those bullet trains are not touching the track.
Well,
Say they'll talk about levitation in the continent or in Europe, but in America, oh, it's not levitation. You're talking about new age things there. You're talking woo-woo stuff. See, but they're already levitating, see? So that's why it's going to be above the ground. It's not going to be touching the ground. We can get rid of all the asphalt jungle and all that nonsense that's going on. I have laser technology, get rid of all those things. The technology, all the wire technology, that's just ridiculous. It's really primitive nonsense. Go outside and look at the back wall. You have that conduit on the wall there. There's a wire that's connected to it on the wall behind you. See? Well, that's ridiculous. That's really ancient technology. It's real primitive stuff. We need to change that. That's why the Institute's very important in terms of relastatics. It'll change everything.
Short time ago, you mentioned about it's our creation. That's what you said. Now, can you just explain to the people who might not understand their creation, what does that mean?
Oh, you mean in terms of people creating their world, the exoteric world?
Yes.
The exoteric creation by people, right? Okay. Well, I mean, that's a problem of, I suppose, religion. When they're making an all-encompassing God as a creator, which I understand that. I respect that a great deal too. At the same time, in your own world, experiences that you have that have really no relationship with anybody else, then you begin to wonder what's happening with your activity that seemingly is causing havoc in your life or good things. See, so therein lies the issues that some I would call it cosmic conscious gurus get into this factor of the creation aspect. Okay. And then my Tibetan Lama teachers were emphasizing that we are our own, like a mini creator in terms of our worlds. So I'm just relying on their opinions. I'm not a Lama, by the way, but I was taught by some eminent teachers there and they had a lot of really good information. So I'm relying on them, or I'm picking on them, as they're the ones that had mentioned something about each individual as being a creator. So I'm going to pick on them and see if you can go to India and study with them, and then you'll realize that you're saddled with their opinions and viewpoints on the creation. I know that's not helpful because most of the time I'm not helpful, but I'm just kidding about that because I'm here just to make a bunch of money so I can go and buy a couple more Rolls Royces.
Do you think that if we West had the concept of karma like they do in the East, we wouldn't have got to the situations we find ourselves in now, where people are just
Well, so cause and effect is karma in the East. In the West, it's the law of cause and effect. Okay, so for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, which I agree with. But at the same time, I think that the religions don't get into that. They get in good and evil and sin. They think that people are sinners, and original sin in the Catholic Church and Christian things. I think some of them talk about that. And, the Adam and Eve business in the Garden of Eden in terms of biblical scripture and stuff. And I'm kind of a biblical scholar, but I don't really quote it necessarily because I'm not involved with religion. I apologize. I'm not atheist, but I don't study all religions because I think they have all of a validity to it, see. And they're helpful in society because they give people some moral codes. It's good for people to have a moral code. Otherwise, we're just animals in the field. We have instinct and we have intuition as a man. And I believe that humans are sentient because we have the ability to learn and have skills. So where does that all come from? Well, it comes from the factor of who we are as individuals. And I have said this on podcasts in the past, that I do believe in reincarnation. I think we've been many things in many lives, and so we have a lot of skill and education and knowledge that we can bring to the forefront. So what are we doing? So we're, like we were saying earlier about corroborating our knowledge that we have. So if we've been many things in many lives, we have a lot of knowledge that needs to be corroborated. We need to work together in agreeable forums, and that's why we're getting into the knowingness arena. So I know that's not helping the creation answer, Steve, and I apologize.
Yeah, thinking about the subject we talked about before, about the time travel, and now, do you think having this vehicle, the skill of time traveling, will be an opportunity for us to go back to our karmic lives, to enrich ourselves through the knowledge we used to have?
That's right. Yeah, we can. That's interesting power. See, that's why I think people are really maybe a little nervous about all this, but then as Tony had helped a great deal, we'll know where we are and we'll be able to be in balance with the whole thing. Because once we get to POTIKA, you can imagine how much balance you'll have because you had to get the rigor to be able to get there. You see what I mean? The skill, that skill bringing back is the end-all end skill that we needed in terms of fixing the ruinations. We fix our language, we fix our life, we fix our travel. Once we have all those fixed, where are we? We're probably in a golden age, right? As we're always talking about. It's probably a golden time. And people say, well, why didn't we retain that? Well, because we start forgetting things. We get distracted. You know that. Well, our whole lives are about distractions. And then we go, oh, I was supposed to do this today, that type of thing. So it's easy to get distracted. You see? So the focus and discipline that we talk about on this call is just the yantra is a real discipline to focus your eye attention in terms of eye travel, but it also brings your wealth and empire to you as well. Because that's how rich people become wealthy, because their eyes make them so, because they're focusing their eyes, bringing everything to them. See, so what we talk about is a discipline, but it's not difficult. We talk about the yantra doing 9 minutes a day. Would you rather work 9 minutes a day than 10 hours a day and create an empire? So that's what we're asking. I just say do 9 minutes a day. You got to do something. You can't just do nothing. But 9 minutes is simple. See, and that's why people stopped doing the practice in the past. And that's why we're ended up in the world we're in today, because people aren't disciplined. A simple discipline, and people get away from even the simplest things they get away from. And that's what happens. We end up being stuck in a portal because of lack of discipline. And a simple discipline, like we're saying, it's not hard to do. It's actually very fun to do yantra phase, and I think I enjoy it a great deal. it's very illuminating and exciting to be able to go to the different phases and what have you. And working on this, I get really excited, like a little kid in the candy store. I do my cocoon of wealth, and I go, "Oh, I can do that now!" I get really excited on the inside, going back to being like a little kid. It's fun. Yes, sir.
How much do you think fear comes into it for some people? They fear the ridicule, or they don't have the belief. Because I think you do have to have belief, or it's not going to work for you, and the discipline, and to rise above the fear.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, see, when we make it really easy for people, it's not really academically difficult. Then, see, that's the beauty of this. I mean, if it was really difficult, people would not engage in it. But the things we talk about are really simple and beautiful at the same time. See, and positive and goodly. And we're going to bring back polite society and get away from all the nonsense that's going on. You see what I mean? Because that's in the knowingness arena too. We know what to do. We know how to make society beautiful, and we'll do that. But again, when we get into the golden age, we'll forget about it after a while, or disappear, like we said, Machu Picchu and the people of the great civilization, Petri and all those great civilizations, Mayan cultures. When they realize they can, I'm going to move into something like a dormant spaceship, they can lift off and disappear. What? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Will that be like phasing into another dimension then?
No, you're still in the physical dimension. When the civilizations took off, because they realized your body can travel in space and fly up in the air, then they just disappear. So where did they all go? Where did all these great and Angkor Wat and Machu Picchu and Petri and the Jordan Desert? Where did all the civilizations go? Well, they realized that they could just take off. And they do. See, and that's what will happen, because you can't stop the civilization. The 90 percenters will want to disappear. The 10 percenters have stability, it would stay. And there's the one that procreate or keep the physical plane going. But you got 90% of the people are just going to take off and disappear. See, and then the other 10% die off after a while because there are not that many left, and the civilization disappears. That's where they all go. Like in the Giza Plateau, that was a great civilization too, because the Sphinx in front of it was there much longer than the Giza Plateau. But this is just a sand that built up, but there's a great civilization underneath all that, see? Because it just disappears after a while. But Angkor Wat is still there, but it was a lot larger too. But it dilapidates after a while because the waters and everything eat away the rocks and things. You see, after a while, and look like Machu Picchu. It's in the middle of those great crevasses, those great deep holes around it. They had the land was all the way up at one time, but you're talking about millions and millions of years of change, and that's what's left of these great civilizations. Like Petri, that was a grand civilization, but all the rock formations that are around after the weather. But what's left is that Greco-Roman structure in the Jordan Desert. You got to go around the rocks and whatnot, but that used to be a tremendous civilization, and that was just the last vestige of that. You see what I mean? So we're getting little bits of what's left over these grand civilizations, and the people are gone because they left. They got the skills and left, because it becomes a skill that you can utilize. Just like when we get to the portals of travel, that might be the keynote. This next step might be people just disappear, and where'd they go? Well, they left.
I've heard that the only eternal on this world is change. So everything is in entropy. So what is an empire today is not going to last. It's going to go, and something else will come along.
Yeah, because it's an evolution mainly. I mean, people evolve, and like I said, the body's a dormant spaceship. So when you realize you can take off, why would you stick around here? You see what I mean?
Exactly.
Or the fact that we're trying to teach that there's more portals. So like, even if you can take off physically, you're still going to be stuck in that portal until you get to POTIKA. POTIKA is portals of travel in the knowingness arena. So even if these civilizations that took off, most likely, most of the time, they're still in the same portal, unless they got to POTIKA. And maybe they did get to POTIKA, and then they didn't even have to bother with the physical spaceship. There's a lot of variables in there. I mean, we're talking about things that people never talk about or don't. They know about it, but then we corroborate the knowingness that we're doing here. Like you guys are a great audience for me, and you bring out all these things in me, and then we have a group consciousness. We address that consciousness because it wants precision. It wants things that are complete. It wants a knowingness arena. It wants knowledge and wisdom, and that's what we do here. I don't think people have that, what we have. We really don't, because I listen to things online all the time, and I maybe for about 5 minutes, and I'm done with it because they're just spinning around in circles all the time, or wanting some kind of donation or profit, and they're just trying to sell me something. I'm not trying to sell anybody anything. I'm just trying to give advancement in skills that you have that are dormant within you, and that's it. That's what I do. So now I'm done. I'll see you later. Take care now. Just kidding. I like that. It feels good to say that too, by the way.
So can I just take you back to
Yeah, take me back.
it sort of links in a little bit with what Tony's talking about, that empires don't last. And we know that because history's littered with empires that have failed eventually. But you mentioned about the religions, and there's lots of different religions, and you didn't have a problem with people having a god here or a god there, calling them different names or whatever. But if you go back to the Egyptian times and the specific pharaoh called Akhenaten, what he did was, at the time when he came to power as the pharaoh, the people of Egypt worshipped many gods. When he came to power, he drew all them together into one god, and he called it the sun god. Now, I think if my memory is right, he reigned for 17 years or something like that. So he changed the whole aspect for 17 years, which is a fair time, but it's not forever. And it's almost like an empire. It didn't last because he died or whatever. I don't know what happened to him, but they went back to many gods again. And do you think it's a case of that human nature or humankind, they can't agree for whatever reason that there's only one supreme deity when there actually we believe there is, or we know there is. But there's something about they can't agree that there is one. And they say, no, this is the only one, ours. And no, this is the only one, ours. Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. It's a polarity thing. You got positive and negative. You got duality and individuality. So that's going to be a change in itself. You don't have a oneness in one individual. See, so that becomes the issue because controversy is just like we kid around. Remember, I was telling about 1 + 1 is 2, and you were saying no, 1 + 1 is 3. So even two people couldn't agree immediately on simple math problem. See, so that's the diversity of individuals will make changes. So, but if somebody comes in and they have opinion like Akhenaten in the day when he was focusing on the sun, but he didn't last. See, so then it gets scattered. If he didn't duplicate himself, like I'm making a great effort to try to duplicate myself and other people, so I'm not the only one left with it. If I leave tomorrow, you guys have the information. So we're duplicating the information, and not Akhenaten obviously didn't duplicate his stuff because they didn't continue on. So that's very important. Like the republic we talk about, when you have two people create a government and not just one person, because one person is a dictator. So individuals become dictators if they can't agree with somebody else or duplicate or corroborate their information. Remember we were talking earlier in the beginning of this talk about corroboration of information. The knowingness arena within somebody needs corroboration. So that's the problem, Steve. They don't stay focused on the truth, and they get helter-skelter in other directions. And I think that's kind of the demon that's out there. I believe that there's a negative force, and it likes to mess around with things and stir the pot for his amusement. You see what I mean? And so that's why humans have a lot of problems, because you got negativity in there messing around with you too at the same time to get you distracted from the truth. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get people to be disciplined on the truth, and the truth be known. We're trying to fix the ruinations and get people moving forward and living a long life, like living long and prosper, right? Live long and prosper.
Yeah, and
I
people,
started that in the 50s. I did it before the Vulcan did it. I was doing this back in the 1950s. You can do it both hands too if you want. You can do that too. You can do that.
I was just thinking, you mentioned about people are distracted by entertainment. Maybe that's why they had more gods, because somebody invented a more exciting god than they had, and they thought, oh, that sounds good.
Well said. Absolutely. They're interesting vectors into some other place, and that's it. I mean, the diversity can be away from discipline sometimes. Focus. It's not always, but focus is a discipline, and we need to be entertained outside the focus. You can't do 24/7 looking at the yantra. You can't do the little circle. You see what I mean? That's why they divined in the past. You only do 9 minutes to bring everything to you. They ancients simplified it a long time ago because they know people aren't disciplined, that their attention is scattered. See, our outer attention, our eyes open. We're like little children seeking the wonderful things and the next joyful thing, like the holidays and Christmas, and people get all excited doing this and going shopping. Like, I want to get a new Ferrari, and I want 2 Rolls Royces, and I also want a Maybach. I want a Maybach. Nice. But anyway. Like you said, it's nicer than a Rolls Royce, more expensive too.
Oh, wow. You're not wanting much.
Yeah, I have a fleet of them. I don't have just one. I have a fleet. A fleet of planes and a fleet of Maybachs. Why do you have so many of these things? Because I can. That's why. Why do you climb Mount Everest? Because it's there. That's why. So you create an empire, and you can have whatever you want in that empire.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So this is Grantham Taylor Hughes signing off. Everybody have a great day, and bye for now.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.